So in my last video, I was talking about how it seemed like we were probably at the bottom and we were probably going to be going up from there as long as there wasn't any unforeseen catastrophes such as World War III that comes into the market sending us down for another leg lower. Because there was so much fear that's already been priced into the market, I was saying that it would probably take something big to push us down for another 50% lower, but now it looks like that catalyst is starting to appear in the news, and this could be sending us down significantly if it does come to fruition. This morning, Vladimir Putin annexed 4 regions of Ukraine, and it looks like the war might be ramping up because he did call for peace, saying that with the annexation of these 4 regions of Ukraine, that they should go back to the negotiating table and go back to peace talks so that they could de-escalate the war. He had a really big speech where he asked for these peace talks, and then him and some of his associates got together and huddled around like they were getting ready for the Super Bowl, and they put all their hands together and did a really big, like, here we go team kind of situation, and it looked like he was just declaring total victory over the situation. Let's check it out.
Мы призываем киевский режим немедленно прекратить огонь, все боевые действия, ту войну, которую он развязал еще в 2014 году, и вернуться за стол переговоров. Мы к этому готовы. Об этом не раз было сказано. Но выбор народа в Донецке, Луганске, Запорожье и Херсоне обсуждать не будем. Он сделан. Россия его не предаст.
So as you can see, it looks like they pretty much declared total victory, and they said that they're not going to be giving away those 4 regions back to Ukraine. They're going to be keeping those. But unfortunately, it looks like the United States and most of NATO doesn't really want to accept that. And if they don't, then I don't know if they're going to escalate things, but I would assume that they probably will. In that situation, Vladimir Putin could see this as a direct attack on Russia, because if they annex those 4 regions of Ukraine, then that is technically Russia in his eyes. And if we keep sending money over there to try to attack that section of what he sees as Russia, then he could see that as a really strong threat and possibly even grounds to use nuclear weapons. This is what Biden had to say about it.
Morning. You know, America and its allies are not going, let me emphasize, are not going to be intimidated, are not going to be intimidated by Putin and his reckless words and threats. He's not going to scare us, and he doesn't, or intimidate us. Putin's actions are a sign he's struggling. The sham routine that he put on this morning, showing the unity and, you know, as people holding hands together. Well, the United States is never going to recognize this. And quite frankly, the world's not going to recognize it either. He can't seize his neighbor's territory and get away with it. It's as simple as that. And they're going to stay the course. They're going to continue to provide military equipment so that Ukraine can defend itself and its territory and its freedom, including additional resources that the Congress is going to give me today of $13 billion more to help the Ukrainians defend themselves and fight back. And we're fully prepared to defend. I want to say this again. America is fully prepared with our NATO allies to defend every single inch of NATO territory. Every single inch. So
obviously, we're just printing more money and sending it away to Ukraine, and that's going to be coming out of all of your pockets, obviously, but I digress from that anyway, because that's just an ongoing issue that we talk about on a regular basis here. But like I said, if they do continue to push money over there and they continue to back up Ukraine, then Russia could definitely see that as an imminent threat and grounds to use nuclear weapons. And of course, Putin has been saying that he would possibly use nuclear weapons recently. So I guess we're about to see probably if he's serious about those threats. And according to this article by Yahoo News and that speech that I showed you a segment of earlier, Putin further escalated threats against Ukraine and the West by saying the U.S. set a precedent of nuclear warfare by hitting Japan with atomic bombs during World War II. Fears have mounted since last week that Putin said he was not bluffing after he warned Moscow would use all weapon systems available to defend Russian territory. And if you think that's crazy, we also have a situation arising where the U.S. could possibly use nuclear weapons against Russia. Zelensky just signed an application for accelerated admission to NATO. Here's Zelensky signing that application.
Де-факто ми вже пройшли свій шлях в НАТО. Де-факто ми вже довели взаємосумісність зі стандартами Альянсу. Вони реальні для України, реальні на полі бою і в усіх аспектах нашої взаємодії. Ми довіряємо один одному, ми допомагаємо один одному, і ми захищаємо один одного. Це і є Альянс. Де-факто. Сьогодні Україна подає заявку, щоб зробити це де-юре, за процедурою, яка відповідатиме нашому значенню для захисту всієї нашої спільноти у пришвидшеному порядку.
So, if Zelensky gets this application approved and Ukraine gets admitted into NATO, then this could really heat up the situation, as obviously Biden just said that they would do everything that we have to do to protect our NATO allies. And that means that with Russia trying to annex 4 regions of what could possibly here shortly be a NATO country, then that would almost certainly be pushing us into World War III. And I don't even think it really matters, but that would definitely be pushing down the markets. It probably wouldn't matter, because if we do see World War III and we see a nuclear holocaust, then it won't really matter about markets, because our money isn't going to save us in that situation anyway. NATO is expected to make a decision on this really soon, but this is what the chief of NATO had to say about this Ukraine application.
In total violation of international law. This land grab is illegal and illegitimate. NATO allies do not and will not recognize any of this territory as part of Russia. We call on all states to reject Russia's blatant attempts at territorial conquest. These lands are Ukraine. Donetsk is Ukraine. Luhansk is Ukraine. Kherson is Ukraine. Zaporizhzhia is Ukraine, just like Crimea is Ukraine. This is the second time Russia has taken Ukrainian territory by force. But it does not change the nature of the conflict. This remains Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. And it does not change our commitment to support Ukraine.
Of course, I do feel bad for anybody who's stuck in a war zone and is having their life torn apart, but I don't want to see that war zone expand and cover up the whole world, because that could mean the end of the human race. Again, I can see two ways that this could lead to a World War III or an escalated conflict between actual Russia and NATO. If the United States and NATO countries continue to support Ukraine and try to take back those 4 regions of Ukraine that Russia just annexed this morning, then Russia could see that as a direct threat and an attack on Russia itself, and that could escalate us into a World War III situation as well. But if NATO accepts Ukraine's application to join NATO, then that would mean that we could see that as a direct attack on NATO countries, with Russia actually trying to take over those 4 regions of Ukraine, because that would be part of a NATO country if they are accepted. That could also lead us into World War III, and either way it happens, I think that would be a really horrible situation, as anybody could probably tell who has half a brain, and I think that's something that we definitely need to avoid at all costs. Hopefully NATO rejects this application, and like I said, I do feel bad for Ukraine, but that's just kind of what it is to be a human, unfortunately. And we really do need to be careful of human nature here, because I'm surprised that we aren't wiped out so far, and that we've had nuclear weapons up until this point without wiping out the human race. And with tensions rising across the globe, I just think it's something we need to be aware of. If a real threat of nuclear war is imminent, then I think obviously stock markets and crypto markets and everything else is going to plummet. But if we do make it through and we avoid a catastrophe somehow, then obviously the markets are probably going to be coming back eventually, and if they don't, then it's probably because this place turns into a nuclear wasteland. So even in the case of a nuclear holocaust, I'm not going to be pulling my money out of the market, because if that happens, it's not going to save me anyway. Let me know what you guys think. Are we headed towards World War III, or is this actually the bottom of the market and this is just more FUD? Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.